Gentlemen, pay attention for a moment. Sighs. I need to admit something most people never say out loud. Many men spend years trying to understand what makes a woman break emotionally, chasing, overthinking, giving endless attention, sending long messages, doing everything they can just to be noticed. Weeks and months go into it, but the reality is simple and uncomfortable. The right man, at the right moment, can say one sentence that cuts deeper than all that effort combined. It happens faster than you think. It's not about looks or money. It's about how words land. One calm statement, one quiet moment, and suddenly she's thinking about you long after you're gone. Men often talk too much. They try too hard, show too much need, and become predictable. That's why they're easy to ignore. But the man who understands timing and restraint creates a completely different effect. He doesn't flood her with words, he places them carefully, and that changes everything. Thoughtful. I'm speaking from experience. I've seen how a quiet man, one who barely speaks, can shift the entire energy in a room. No forced jokes, no constant compliments, just presence. And when he finally says something, it hits with weight. Silence builds tension, and tension makes people lean in. When a man calmly shows that he won't chase what isn't his, it creates a reaction most don't expect. It challenges the ego and creates curiosity. Suddenly, she's wondering where she stands and why he isn't behaving like everyone else. There's also something many won't admit. Women test men, sometimes subtly, sometimes obviously, pulling away, creating confusion, seeing how he reacts. Most men fall into the trap. They explain, chase, and try to fix things, but the one who stays steady and unaffected shifts the entire dynamic. When he shows that certain behaviors don't affect him, the control changes hands instantly. Then there's the moment when distance is met with more distance. When a man doesn't panic, doesn't chase, but calmly gives space instead. That's when things flip, because the expectation is pursuit, and when it doesn't happen, it creates uncertainty. Another powerful shift happens when a man shows desire without dependence. Wanting someone but not needing them signals confidence and self-respect. It creates tension because it shows he can walk away at any time. That balance is rare, and rarity draws attention. Scarcity plays a huge role too. Constant attention loses value. But when attention feels limited, it becomes something to earn. That's when effort increases because people naturally value what isn't easily available. And then comes the mindset shift where the man doesn't compete. Instead, he positions himself as the one being chosen. That reverses expectations completely. It moves him from being the one chasing to the one being pursued. Finally, boundaries. This is where respect is built or lost. When a man allows everything, he loses value. But when he calmly sets limits and stands by them, it creates clarity. It shows self-respect, and that's something people respond to immediately. All of this comes down to one thing. Not words alone, but how, when, and why they are spoken. The man who understands that doesn't need to say much, and that's exactly what makes him unforgettable. Because if a man can't hold his ground with a woman, he won't hold it anywhere else in life. But the one who stands firm, who doesn't tolerate disrespect, ends the game immediately. That kind of man is intimidating in a way that pulls attention instead of pushing it away. Thoughtful. I remember acting distant with a man on purpose, giving cold replies, showing no warmth, expecting him to chase harder and try to win me back. Instead, he stayed calm and said in a steady tone that if I disrespected him once, he would walk away. No anger, no arguing, just certainty. And I believed him. That moment changes everything because it shows something deeper than words. It shows standards. Pause. Here's the harsh truth many won't admit. Respect comes from consequences, not explanations. When a man proves he can leave without hesitation, he becomes impossible to forget. Deep down, every woman wants a man whose self-respect is stronger than his desire. The moment a man fears losing a woman more than losing himself, attraction fades. But when he protects his identity first, everything shifts. Then comes the line most men are afraid to say, the one that breaks control completely. A man who can calmly say he would rather be alone than settle for the wrong person shows something rare. It's not loud or aggressive, but it hits hard. It signals independence and standards. It shows he isn't desperate for company, and that kind of energy changes how he's seen instantly. Most men tolerate anything just to avoid being alone. But the one who is comfortable standing on his own becomes different. When a woman realizes she isn't needed for his happiness, she starts wanting to be chosen by him. That desire to be the exception becomes powerful. Another shift happens when emotions are not absorbed, but reflected. Many times, emotional reactions are used to gain control. Most men respond by fixing, apologizing, or over-explaining, but the man who stays calm and simply points out what's really happening changes the dynamic. When someone feels seen instead of indulged, the mask drops. That creates a moment that sticks. There's also a pattern when distance happens. When someone leaves or goes quiet, they often return expecting everything to be the same. Most men accept it instantly. But the one who doesn't allow easy return sets a new standard. He shows that actions have weight and that respect must be rebuilt, not assumed. That alone can shift the entire balance. Silence plays its own role. Not everything needs to be explained repeatedly. The man who says something once and stands by it shows certainty. He doesn't chase understanding or approval. And that lack of over-explaining creates space for the other person to think, question, and even overthink. Then there's purpose. The man who is focused on his path, his growth, and his future naturally becomes more attractive. Not because he tries, but because his life has direction. When he makes it clear that his progress doesn't depend on anyone else, it creates a powerful image. It shows that he's building something bigger than the relationship itself. And finally, there's the kind of statement that lingers long after everything ends, the kind that makes someone realize what they lost only when it's gone. The men who are remembered aren't the ones who begged or chased. They're the ones who stood firm, said what they meant, and walked away without looking back. All of this isn't about memorizing lines, it's about mindset. Every word only works if it comes from real confidence, real boundaries, and real self-respect. When a man speaks from that place, he doesn't need to convince anyone. His presence does it for him. I've seen it again and again. People ignore constant attention but remember quiet strength. They forget the ones who tried too hard but never forget the one who didn't need to try at all. That's the difference. At the end of the day, attraction isn't built on words alone. It's built on how those words are backed by actions. A man who knows his worth doesn't chase approval. He sets the tone. And once that tone is set, everything else follows.